It's been 4 years since the release of the Samsung Galaxy S4. In this video, we take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S4 4 years later. That's coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up, guys? This is Nick here from Everything Tech, and welcome to the Samsung Galaxy S4 4 years later review. So we're basically just going to talk about it here. It's a 4-year-old smartphone now, and some people like to know about how these phones perform years later because they don't want to buy the latest flagship. They want to buy an old S4, an old S5. You might have, $99, $80 in your pocket. You're like, let me check out that old Galaxy S4. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more here in this video. Now, this video is being shot in a car, so let me know what you guys think of this type of video style. But anyway, in terms of hardware and design, the Galaxy S4 does retain Samsung's classic design with its, curvy looks, with its, home button on the front. Not too much different, in fact, from the Galaxy S7 series of smartphone here. Just the Galaxy S7 is just much better in the build quality, like glass and all that stuff. But other than that, it's pretty much similar looking from a distance, the Galaxy S4, but it does have that hyper glazed material in the back plate. You can see right there. Definitely looked pretty cool back in the day, but it definitely was not high quality feeling. And this is the era when Samsung used to be trashed for their build quality all the time. People would make fun of them, saying, oh, you got to step it up, because they would put high quality internals in their smartphone, but they would make these plastic flimsy backs right here, which I thought were pretty durable. Honestly, they didn't really crack that easily, but they just didn't feel the best. They used to get greasy and slimy. You could see the fingerprints right there. But this was also the days when Samsung had their removable batteries. And the Galaxy S4, even to this day, could be easily used, because if it had an old battery, you can easily swap the battery out on the Galaxy S4. Now, this is obviously running a very, very old version of Android. You can see right here, I believe this is in the Jelly Bean era. Let me go back into more. Let me go into more. Let me get into more here and go down to about device, and let's see. Yeah, we're back in the Jelly Bean days, or Kit Kat days, actually, not too far back as Jelly Bean, but we are in the Kit Kat days here with the Samsung Galaxy S4 here, Android 4.4.2. It's just crazy how fast time moves. It just seems like it was yesterday that we all were rocking out on Android Kit Kat. But let's talk a little bit more about the Galaxy S4 in terms of its display. Now, speaking about that display on the Samsung Galaxy S4, we're talking about a 1080p Full HD Super AMOLED display here. So this display definitely comes in at over 400 pixels per inch, making this for a very sharp panel even here in 2017. Now, the iPhone 7, for example, doesn't even have 400 pixels per inch. The Galaxy S series, all the smartphones from the Galaxy S series do have well over 400 pixels per inch, but the Galaxy S4, even to this day, 4 years later, still has a very sharp screen, and it's very punchy in the Super AMOLED. So this has definitely aged very well in terms of the display quality. Samsung has been leading the market in, I think, display quality for quite some time now, and it still shows 4 years later here on the Galaxy S4. So in terms of performance on the Samsung Galaxy S4, it's definitely okay. It's not incredibly quick anymore. I mean, you see that little pause. You do have to wait from time to time for things to open, but it's definitely not a slow phone. I mean, it's still usable, and if you picked one of these guys up used for like $80 on a spare backup phone or something like that, this definitely would get the job done to hold you over if you busted up a phone or something like that. Now, I'm not recommending anybody go out and get this phone. This is just kind of a classic review of an older device, but the Galaxy S4 has held up decently well in performance. If you didn't load it down with too many apps and you do a factory reset from time to time, it should still perform pretty decently here in 2017. Now, this device is heavily, rootable. You can root this device, put many custom ROMs on it. I think you even have, Galaxy S6 ROMs for this device. So you can definitely root and customize the crap out of a Galaxy S4. So it's not really a problem in terms of performance because you can put custom kernels and stuff like that. So performance is okay here in 2017. 4 years later, performance has aged decently well. It's Snapdragon 600 series processor in here with 2 gigs of RAM. A lot of budget smartphones just now are coming with 2 gigs of RAM. So definitely, I wouldn't say they put future-proof specs in here, but a flagship phone is always going to last well into the future versus budget phones. Now that camera on the Samsung Galaxy S4 is a 13 megapixel snapper with flash, and it still shoots okay shots here even in 2017, 4 years later. I would definitely be okay with making a 1080p video on the Galaxy S4, posting it to YouTube even in 2017, and if you set it up properly, you do it in the right light, I think you wouldn't even be able to notice this came from a smartphone. This was a pretty good camera here in the Galaxy S4. I think it's a little bit close to the iPhone 5S in terms of quality, but it's still, it's still a pretty decent camera here in 4 years later for the Galaxy S4. So Samsung, I think, has always put pretty solid sensors in their smartphones, especially their flagship smartphones, and the Galaxy S4 is no different. Excuse all these fingerprint scanner, or these fingerprints all over the device. The oleophobic coating has kind of come off, so it's like really hard to take those off of the Galaxy S4. But the software here for this camera is pretty old, but you still have all the modes that you can use here, like auto, best photo, best face, sound shot, drama, animated photo, rich tone, eraser, panorama, sports, and much more. So definitely still has a lot of features set here for a smartphone camera 4 years later in the Galaxy S4. Now the battery life on the Galaxy S4 4 years later has, like I say, because you can remove it, it does hold up pretty decent, and it still supports near field communication. So NFC is supported here in the Galaxy S4, meaning that it should be able to use Android Pay here on a Galaxy S4. So you could swap it out. So battery life is it's more subjective. If you keep the stock battery, this I think it's a 2600 milliamp hour battery here, don't quote me. Let me check the battery capacity right here on the front. 2600, I was correct there for the battery capacity. And this phone to me got about 3 hours to 4 hours on screen time, so it's not an incredible battery life champion, but you could add packs on here like Zero Lemon battery packs, Mophie juice packs, stuff like that. So it definitely can last pretty long with the battery. Plus, if this one dies, you just swap it out with a new battery. So this is kind of classic old school stuff. We don't really use swappable batteries anymore with all these new glass designs and stuff like that. But like I say, battery life is okay here 4 years later on the Galaxy S4. So what about everyday usability with the Galaxy S4 here 4 years later? So honestly, I gotta be real with you guys. If this was my smartphone, I could easily get by with the Galaxy S4 and be pretty happy. I mean, 1080p is plenty enough screen resolution for me here, and Super AMOLED, it still looks good. The only thing I would have to do to this Galaxy S4 is probably get a nice case that would make it feel like metal around the sides. I would go ahead and slap a skin maybe on the front or the back, a screen protector on here, and I would probably add custom ROM on here, maybe a custom kernel, if not just stock Androidify it through Nova Launcher here and make this thing scream in terms of performance. So everyday usability, very light. I mean, plastic shell, this phone feels like a feather in your hand. The Galaxy S4, yeah, it's not the sexiest thing all around. I mean, it looks kind of cheap with those painted brushed aluminum along the edges, but it's definitely a super light phone and one that you're barely gonna feel in your pocket here. So everyday usability, I would say it's pretty strong for the Galaxy S4 even here 4 years later, and I think it's held up better than phones like maybe iPhone 5C or something like that. Call quality and texting has been just fine here for me on the Galaxy S4, so no problems there. Just you got to use one of the newer messaging apps such as Textra, maybe Google Allo or Facebook's Messenger to have a little bit more modern feel than this old school messaging app here. Do you have a Galaxy S4? Are you using a Galaxy S4? What are your thoughts on it? Post your comments down below. Click the like button for me if you enjoyed this video. What about this video outside of the studio in the car or something? Do you like this type of video? Comment that down below. Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well. I will catch you all in the next one, and peace.